It's member-supported Hawaii Public Radio, All Things Considered, HPR1. I'm Dave Lawrence, and a lot of fun today. We get a speedy return visit from one of our more lively guests of the year. He was in town in Waikiki, you may recall, at the Blue Note, Hawaii. Now he's bringing his band Hiroshima to outer islands. He's bringing his band Hiroshima to places like September 9th at KCC on the Garden Isle, September 10th, Honoka'a People's Theater on Hawaii Island, and then wrapping things up September 11th at the Palace in Hilo. It's Dan Kuramoto, band leader, and joining us now back on All Things Considered. Dan, aloha, mahalo, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. It's a great pleasure.
It's great to have you back on, giving you a hug via the phone line technology. And this is cool. This is what, a return visit for the folks who were unable to make the Honolulu show.
Yeah, for us, we talked in Honolulu when we played the Blue Note, Hawaii is always going to be our spiritual center. I mean, not just because, some of the band is from Hawaii, but, Hawaii is the only part of America to me that really gets, the spiritual nature of the planet, and I think, like the Native Americans have tried to preserve it on the mainland, but they've been so persecuted that it's very, very difficult for them. And I think, for us, it always reawakens our perspective of why we do what we do, who we are, who we happen to be, and in some cases, hopefully, what we can become. And in this scenario, we had the wonderful opportunity to play at the Blue Note, and we're looking to not play for a while. We've made a decision to, particularly next year, maybe go on hiatus for the year, maybe a little longer. We're not sure yet. It just seemed like after 40 years of touring, June brought up, maybe we should take a step back and, sort of reevaluate. We're so blessed that we could continue to tour, but we thought, or at least June raised a good point, and then we're contemplating, the ma, in Asian philosophy, the ma is the space. It's where nothing happens. It's in between things. It's in between when you inhale and exhale. Is the ma, right? So we should really explore that for ourselves for at least a little while. So we, haven't put a time frame on it, but we are definitely going to take a break. And we thought, well, the opportunity to come back and play the outer islands would at least let us go full circle with, our own souls. And so we haven't played in Kauai. I'm going to say maybe 6-7 years or so. Okay. And the last time we were able to play at the community theater, it sold out so fast that we did a free concert, at the mall, and that was really cool. It was great. Some of the guys from Kalapana showed up and surprised us and stuff. And it's all about Ohana, right? And music is Ohana. I'm been just gathering quotes of some of my spiritual mentors. Quotes by James Moody and Miles Davis and cats like that, Herbie and stuff, things that, they told to me sometimes in very private conversation, and it's sort of like going back to the Ma. Dizzy Gillespie's interpretation of jazz is, he says, jazz is what you don't play. And, so we're, as we go into the exploration of our own personal Hiroshima Ma, the opportunity to go back and play the outer islands is great. So getting to go to Kauai and then to go to the Big Island where we've played many times, but we haven't played Hilo in, I want to say, at least 8 years. So these are going to be, this and Yoshi's Jazz Club and an East Coast run is pretty much the end of our performances for some time to come. We're not going to like just go underground. I think we're trying to get June to do another solo album. Kimo's got a project he's been working on. I'm contemplating starting another project, but that in toto is our thought, that we're going to explore a little of the Ma, and before we do, we want to come back to Hawaii one more time.
That makes a lot of sense. You have very strong connections here. Kimo's from Kalihi, right?
Yes. And we're bringing back the singer who we found and who has sung with us both on our 2010 Grammy-nominated Legacy, and then on our current Songs with Words, Yvette Ni'i, and she's from the Eva side.
Right, who was there hanging out and performing at the shows in Honolulu. You mentioned Miles, and it's someone that you're so strongly associated. When you did that historic tour in 1990, how many dates approximately did you guys do together?
Not many. A little more than a half a dozen.
Wow!
Because it was a JVC tour, so we were doing that, and we were doing other JVC dates. So we would meet up with Miles and then do some, like we did the Newport Jazz Festival at Saratoga. We didn't do that with Miles. We would separate and come back and separate and come back. But it was Miles' last significant tour before he passed. So it was very impactful for us. First of all, just to hang with Miles, but to connect with, his whole approach to music, which for us, we've really tried to emulate, to the extent that Miles just believed that one does not stay in the same place, and as we talked about, Dave, at the Blue Note, and one of his many classic quotes was, a fan brought him a stack of early albums and asked Miles to sign it, which, as I said, shocked me because Miles typically does not do autographs. But this must have been a long time ago, But the cat said to Miles, which I found, really courageous in a certain way, that I wanted you to sign these early albums, when you were really popular. And Miles just took a beat and he said, "Yeah, well, I'm into different things. What you want me to do? Wait for you?" Now, I mean, there's so much to that, what I mean, about what Miles is about and about what music, at least for us, should be about. It's always about moving forward. It's like, to me, it's Picasso's Guernica. It's that whole idea that we reflect the society that we're in, but hopefully, with like a prism of so many other visions.
And that was a point where he, on what you're saying, had really changed and evolved greatly. So it was presenting lots of challenges both for himself and for the fans. Right.
And in our own humble way, and I mean this in our own very, very humble way, we have, a world-class artist in June Kuramoto, our koto player, but the band as a whole has collectively, sought to bring and make part and represent, Asian Pacific culture in this country in our own small way. Because as kids, we didn't have much representation in the media. We felt like we didn't get respect. And so what we felt, we needed to make that socio-political statement that we are, that we represent. Not that we represent everybody,
right?
Because we wouldn't want to humiliate anyone, by, no, that's not us. But, from the point of view, but we are our authentic selves, and our authentic selves happen to be Asian Pacific. And Asian Pacific culture, we're talking about thousands of years of culture, of a really rich dynamic, of so much that we can offer to this country, and we felt that, a real drive, and that's why we've stayed together all these years, to represent that throughout this country and the rest of the world where we could. And so it's been very important to us, and it does not change. If we go on hiatus for a while, however long, and I literally have no idea, because the deal was, probably maybe a year, maybe two, maybe never. We don't know. We'll feel our way through this because we'll see, through the the window of that, where we end up. But, and I know it seems weird because, well, Hiroshima is really, much of the music is very pop or R&B or whatever it is. And then, but I think if people thought about it, that is more unlikely than if we were doing, say, even modern classical music or something like that. I mean, it's, what are a koto player playing as she did on the number one hit single Sukiyaki by Taste of Honey, say, in the 80s. What she was doing really was representing her Japanese culture, being born in Japan, and her classical koto roots, but also, saying, because her passion for the music and the koto is so deep that we could put it in a setting that is R&B pop, and I don't think anyone stops at, I can't listen to this record because this is too strange, that beautiful koto playing, right? I mean, I don't think it would have become a number one single if that koto wasn't part of the hook, part of what made it work, but coming from a perspective that no one in this country had ever heard before.
That's a lot of the representation is a huge value, I'm sure, to other people who feel the same, that the different kinds of Asian culture not representative in pop music in the United States for sure, and then you do it in a very unique way that is not typical at all, provides a fusion of many elements, some of the things that you've grown up with, some of the things, as you said, you aspire to do. One of the ways, though, that you brought your music into the mainstream, and I've been curious how it ended up happening. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, the moon is a window to heaven. How did that all happen, Dan?
Well, they actually contacted us, and I think, it sort of stemmed from the fact that the Star Trek movie previous to that, which I think Leonard Nimoy directed, the Jackets did a song on it, and that movie did very well. And I'm sorry, the Yellow Jackets. We've known each other for like 30 years, and so. But anyway, so the Yellow Jackets did a movie, and did I think Star Trek 4, I believe, and so they thought, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, it is Star Trek, so maybe having some kind of contemporary jazz might be kind of cool, and so they reached out to us, and it was very interesting because, Shatner directed ours, number 5, and he had never directed a movie before, so it was a really interesting experience. It was really a blessing for us because Kimo and I got to work with Jerry Goldsmith, who's one of my all-time film composer heroes. And really, he taught us a lot about, the mechanics of dealing with, huge movie studios. Because I've done a lot of TV and a lot of movies, but the TV was like Showtime. And I did ABC one series for them. But I mean, it's all semi-hateful work. I'm just being honest here, what I mean, because there's so much BS and stuff like that. But, this was on a whole nother layer of BS, and Jerry handled the politics so beautifully. So, and I came away from it, having even more respect for Jerry, who was one of the first film composers who really was able to bring electronic music into film scoring in a really artful, soulful way. And also that the guy's got the thickest skin in the world because he could deal with the studio executives and some of the bizarre things that they would bring up, and it taught me right then and there that, I will never do this. Never do this. But I mean, it was great. And I'm trying to think of the lyricist, John, A Moon is a Window to Heaven was sung by, help me here, the African American woman in the early Star Trek cast, and she lip synced the song, and the composer of the lyrics, who was a multiple Oscar and Grammy nominated lyricist whose name escapes me at the moment. I'm sorry. So he just handed me a page of lyrics, and they said, "Well, write a song." And Uhuru, I think that's the name of the character in Star Trek. So and it had to sort of suit Uhuru. So so I wrote the music and the melody for that song, and then we wrote some other cues in it. And again, it was an incredible learning experience. And Bill Shatner he's a very he's a funny guy, and it didn't seem to ever to be mean spirited, and did not have a lot of chops to direct. Let me just leave it at that. And but I mean, a pleasant man, and it was it was an interesting experience.
Nichelle Nichols, is that the name of the?
That's the actress, yes.
Right, that's who you're talking about. Who?
Yeah, and she played a character called Uhuru.
Right.
Yeah, and she was very nice, and so and it was fun because here's the lyrics. Here's the actor. Write a song that makes sense. And unfortunately, that was the least successful of all the Star Trek movies, and I'm sure they probably thought we contributed to that lack of success. But I think, given the film industry as we know it, it can botch a lot of things, and in this case, I think there are contributing factors, and I like to think that Hiroshima and Jerry Goldsmith didn't really add to the problem, but we did our best to salvage what we could.
You always do your best. I doubt you added anything bad to it, and you're going to be bringing a whole lot to the islands on this tour that I hope people take advantage of, especially noting that this is an experience that could be the last for a while. They're going to be at the KCC September 9th is where it all gets started before they head to the Big Island, September 10th, Honoka'a People's Theater, September 11th, the Palace in Hilo. Of course, bringing Kimo from Kalihi to augment that local feeling that you guys have.
And Yvette.
And Yvette, that's right. And Yvette from the Eva side. So you're really representing, even though you're not coming back to Oahu, you're really representing. So we're proud of you for keeping taking Oahu to the rest of the state and the world, so to speak. It's Dan Kuramoto from Hiroshima, and I hope you had fun talking today, Dan. It's great catching up with you, brother.
Dave, you're a great cat. I hope people continue to listen and your show expands because of all things considered that I've heard across this country, your approach to this is as cool as it gets, and Hawaii is very lucky that you're doing what you do. And thank you for giving us this opportunity. We look forward to seeing people. Just one last bit,
Sure.
The show that we're going to do is a little bit retrospective, because there will be some time before we do more shows. So even we're not sure what we're going to quite get into. We're discussing that now, but hopefully people will come and share these moments with us. Dave, thank you so much.
I'm giving you a big hug, Dan. I mean it, and thank you for the kind words. God bless you.
I'm being very, very honest. As I told you, there's on a I think unintentional scale a fair amount of narrow-mindedness in a lot of the shows, even in LA where I've been on KCRW a million times, and all the and it's just very strange. But I feel a pure spirit from where you're coming from. And I think that's a really blessing for public radio in Hawaii, and that growth I hope becomes infectious to some of the other stations.
I love it.
I would ask one other thing: if you could slug it in for us, if you could mention our website, HiroshimaMusic.com, because people have been asking, and I forgot in interviews, so that if people want to stay with us during this hiatus. So if June gets a new album out, people might want to know about that. We're expanding the recipes fivefold because a lot of people are into the recipes on our website. So I'm not asking you to do that, but if you could just mention that we have a site, that would be, if you cannot, Not understood.
No, it's in there. It's in there. HiroshimaMusic.com, brother. And
thank you.
And God bless you. It's great.
God bless. I hope to catch up sometime and share a beer and hang out.
Well,
for real.
I appreciate it. Me too. And be safe. Big hug, Dan. Feel it.
Okay. Mahalo, bro.
Aloha, brother. Take care.
Aloha. Aloha. It's Dan Kuramoto from the band Hiroshima. You're tuned to my good friend and buddy, Dave Lawrence, on All Things Considered.